All right, guys, just want to welcome back to your Everything College Bowl podcast. Today, me and Nick here will be looking at the Pinstripe Bowl, December 28th, Thursday at 2:15 Eastern Time on ESPN. Hurricanes 1-point favorites from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, New York. Looking at Rutgers, this is a team that they really had to fight hard to get to a bowl this season, but they finally did it. We had some high hopes for this team, Nick. We didn't exactly have the guts to pick them to reach the postseason, but they have. And you start with quarterback Gavin Wimsatt. He was better this year, 48% completion rating, 8 picks, only 9 touchdowns. That's not great, right? But, 137 yards per game as well. But at times it seemed like he threw the football with some more confidence, and this offense seemed somewhat competent. Again, the numbers are absolutely horrid, right? But in years past, we've seen this team be absolutely terrible. They didn't have a single quarterback last year top 100 yards per game passing, so they upped that number pretty significantly. And Wimsatt showing some of that confidence, has made plenty of mistakes and has had inaccuracies, but this is a quarterback who's delivered at times and has given them some balance.
Yeah, this is an offense that we didn't have high hopes for, but they looked better. This is one of those situations where the numbers on paper don't really match the story being told on the field. And I think Wimsatt, like you said, had a lot more confidence this year, right? You look at 47% comp rate. That's obviously not good. 1,600 yards passing. That's a lot better than what we've seen in the past. 9 touchdowns, 8 picks is not great either. But I think, again, this team finally had some more balance. They were a little less predictable, and you were able to throw some wrenches into these teams that they were playing in the past. Rutgers, you knew they were probably going to run the ball 9 out of 10 times. Now they have a little more balance. They were able to do so. They're still efficient on the ground and had some success running the ball, but you saw better opportunities in the pass game, which created some doors for this team, right? 142 pass yards per game is nothing crazy, but it definitely is an improvement from what we've seen with this team. They were able to get the yards per play a little bit higher, right? 4.91. It's nothing crazy, but it's slowly getting better. 4.21 yards per carry on the ground at 22.6 points per game. This offense has improved slowly. The running back game has been solid, and some of these receivers were pretty solid as well.
Wimsatt, though, has added a good dimension of his legs, 480 yards and 9 touchdowns. And, for a couple of seasons, Nick, I told you I was waiting for this run game to get going. I felt like they had some, quality linemen and some nice running backs. And Kyle Mongai this year finally proved me right. 1,099 yards, 7 touchdowns. He announced he's coming back next season. He's really giving life to this offense. 91.5 yards per game. It's a very impressive tune. Over 5 yards per attempt as well. This team's putting up $165 on the ground and about 40 rushing attempts. So the efficiency certainly a little bit lower than you would like to see. This is a team that has massively improved, especially when it comes to running the ball here, Nick. And like I said, they have a little bit of balance, and they're finally competent on this side of the ball, which is why they're here.
Mongai returning is a huge add for Rutgers. If he was going to enter the portal, he might not have played in this bowl game. Him returning, he's going to play in the bowl game. A very nice return for this team. Like I said, 1,100 yards on the ground, 5.1 yards per carry, and 7 scores. Wimsatt, 488, 4 yards per carry, and 9 scores. Good numbers. And then the right wide receiving room, some solid guys. Christian Dremel, 440, 12.9, and 3 scores for him. Isaiah Washington, 307, 12.8, and 1 score for him. Ian Strong, 216, 14.4, and 2 scores. So some nice numbers overall. This is an offense that's getting better as time goes on under Greg Schiano, and this was a big step forward for this team.
Yeah, they got 3 receivers over 300 yards. Isaiah Washington, Jaquay Jackson, and Christian Dremel. Certainly, some impressive stuff from this offense this year. Holland Pierce at left tackle. He was a good surprise for him. Brian Felter, his left guard spot really hasn't been that bad in pass protection. So they're marching in the right direction. Very happy to see that on the side of the ball. For Miami, a unit that, on the stat sheet, pretty good. 32 points per game, 441 per contest. The stats show they have balance. This is a team I picked to win over 7.5 games. I feel like they had a lot of potential. A lot of this potential was wasted this year. And I want to start with, of course, Tyler Van Dyke transferring to Wisconsin. I'm really not sure who to put the blame on here. This is a guy that absolutely torched Texas A&M in week 2. A couple weeks later, he put up, 4 straight games of 2+ interceptions in the month of October and then some. So I don't really know who to put the blame on here. I think this offense certainly had a lot of potential. Emory Williams as well. He ended up getting hurt when they went with him against Florida State. Was pretty poor in that game. The running backs have been beat up. I know Donald Chaney is transferring out. Henry Parrish, I think he's going to be playing in this game. 579, 6 scores. And, freshman Mark Fletcher. He got a big uptick in carries over the second half of the year. 512 yards and 5 scores for him. This is just a big mystery of an offense, Nick. Colby Young, of course, he's transferring out. So there's a lot to watch coming into this game. If they're playing anyone else in a bowl game, they would probably be underdogs. But considering, Miami or Rutgers, their offenses are probably on the same level at this point. That's probably why they're still the favorites, Nick. But if they're playing anybody else, they probably would be in doubt because there's just so much uncertainty here. Ja'Cory Brown, I think, is going to be the starting quarterback in this game. No experience under his belt at all.
This is certainly a problem. Van Dyke, we had high hopes for this offense and Van Dyke. We thought they'd be able to put up a lot of points. They did do that, 32.1 points per game. The turnovers was a problem, right? There were a lot of interceptions from Van Dyke that were sloppy, 12 picks this year, 19 touchdowns for him. He will not be playing in this game, transferring to Wisconsin. They were an efficient offense, right? 5.2 yards per attempt on the ground, 6.51 yards per play. But that offensive stats, we don't know if that's going to be the same offense we get. We don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. Like I said, the guy playing has no experience at this point in time. This is a mess for this team right now. They have some opt-outs across the board, guys in the portals. This offense is just not going to be as efficient as it has been all season, and it can certainly be an issue for this team in this bowl game.
And of course, they just do have some great weapons, and there's some very talented players here. Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo, for the latter, 993 and 5 scores. For George, 851 and 8 touchdowns. I mean, these are some really talented pass catchers. Rashard Smith has still got some nice speed as well. So it's unfortunate to see Colby Young transfer out. And also it's unfortunate to see it not exactly pan out like it could have on this side of the ball. Offensive line, of course, this is, I also thought would, be much better this year. Matt Lee, the transfer center, he's going to be opting out of this game. Elite season for him. He came over from UCF and he was great. And as Cooper this year really stepped up at his guard spot. And of course, Jalen Rivers as well. Left tackle was really good. Javion Cohen was a sound player. Of course, they have a big 5-star true freshman, Francis Muaga, who at times struggled. And obviously, we've seen that with Caden Proctor as well. So the true freshmen were able to step in this year and struggle at the heavy conferences, but have better seasons as the year went on. Very sound offensive line for Miami, though. Really up in the air, though. I give these offenses probably even, considering the turmoil on Miami's right now. Looking at the defenses for Rutgers, Nick, we talked about how this defense would be a pretty stout unit. 21 points per game, though I think they certainly exceeded our expectations just slightly. I'm not shocked really one bit, because Shiano was really able to come in here last year and show that this team could compete on this side of the ball. And they're getting it done with some very good players in Deion Jennings, Mohamed Torre at linebacker. And, of course, the defensive line's incredibly stout. Aaron Lewis is a highly productive player. At least he was last year. Not as much this year, but he's been good for them. They got Wesley Bailey as well. Rene Kanga, a guy who's been beat up at times this season. And, he was able to get back on the field here. This is a run defense that's been very sound for the most part this year. 137 yards per game allowed in this conference when you're on the field this much is very good. 3 times this year they've given up 200 plus rushing. Michigan, Penn State, and Wisconsin. So, there's nothing wrong with that, Nick. I think they've held up for the most part very well this year. Hasn't been a perfect unit because they do still give up 100 yards pretty frequently, 4 yards per attempt. So it's not a liability. I would trust them to get off the field if I needed them to in the fourth quarter.
I think I would trust them as well. This is a unit that's had some production increases this year, some solid players. It starts with Jennings and Torre, the 2 linebackers at the top of the team. Jennings, 86 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 4 pass breakups. Torre, 85 total tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, a pick, and 2 pass breakups. Good numbers there. Aaron Lewis, he's been productive. 48 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Wesley Bailey, 24 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 3 pass breakups. Isaiah Otten, the transfer, 37 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, half a sack, and a pass breakup. So there are some nice production numbers here. I think this is a unit that has some good physical improvements. 21 points per game, 4.01 yards per attempt on the ground, and just under 5 yards per play. For this defense, this is a solid unit that Greg Schiano is coaching and developing a hard-hitting physical defense for the Big Ten.
Yeah, Jordan Thompson, a nice edge rusher as well for them. Torre was also very sound in coverage. Of course, the secondary, they're not too bad either. I thought they were going to be much better last year than they were, so they're a little disappointing. And this year, they finally showcased that improvement. 176 yards per game, 8 picks, 15 touchdowns, 59% comp rate. Got absolutely ate up in the finale against Maryland. For the most part this year, they didn't give up much at all. That was the first time all season they gave up 250-plus passing yards, really. 4-game losing streak certainly wasn't ideal, but it wasn't due to the secondary's fault by any means. I think the offensive woes finally caught up, playing all these ranked teams. Maryland with a really good passing attack, so it certainly caught up to them. But the secondary is very sound. Obviously, Flip Dixon at safety has been a terrific add for them. Robert Longerbeam, Max Melton, some really good players at these cornerback positions. A few of them, including Melton, that certainly have an NFL future. Love this secondary, Nick. Obviously, they're going to have to see in the future a lot of turnover, and we're going to have to see them continue to be great. But in terms of this game against a third-string quarterback, they're going to probably have an edge. Might be able to create some turnovers, but they're again playing some talented receivers, and they still have to be noted of that.
You certainly like the matchup potential here against, like you said, an inexperienced quarterback. Flip Dixon, great player, 70 total tackles, 5 pass breakups, a pick for him. Shaquan Loyal, another solid player, 63 total tackles, a pick, 2 pass breakups for him. Tareem Powell, 53 total tackles, 2 pass breakups. Robert Longerbeam, 39 total tackles, 10 pass breakups, leads the team, 1 pick for him. Max Melton, 32 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions. plus 6 pass breakups. Eric Rogers, 15 total tackles, 6 pass breakups for him as well. So there is some nice depth on this defense. They have some nice rotational pieces. I'm really happy with the 21 points per game. They've been solid against the pass and pretty good against the run as well. This defense has improved a lot better than I thought they would be. I'm very happy with the progress that Shiano and company are making down there in Piscataway.
Hurricane defense not far behind, 22.1 yards per game. Felt like this would be an elite run defense this year, and it was. 97 yards per game allowed. They got torched against UNC for 235. Louisville was able to rip off some big plays. That was about it, though. Nobody else was really cracking this run defense. Boston College was able to put up, a nice 5.5-yard mark, but they got blown out in that game, so really just trying to play catch up. They were great all year long, other than that Tar Heel game, and obviously they're going to be down some guys. Corey Flagg is in the portal. Leonard Taylor's gone. James Williams and Cameron Kitchens at safety. Looks like they're both going to be out for this game. So they're going to be down some pretty impressive assets. But again, the opponent they're playing, it's not going to be a major concern. Maybe with some of the run-stopping ability, yes, but they still have a talented defensive front. Guys like Ruben Bain, who's a freshman, really stepped up. Francisco Moaga, he's already announced he's playing here this game and next season. 17 tackle for loss for him. Wesley Basanti really has taken over that linebacking spot anyway. So is KJ Cloyd. So Leonard Taylor's going to be a big loss in this game. Jacob Litchinson, the senior's looking to have a nice coming out party. Nice size, and Thomas Gore. I mean, this run defense was exactly on par with what I thought, Nick, in this game. It's going to be a fun matchup to watch. This run defense and these backers against this run game led by Mongai.
This is a great defensive unit that had a really strong season in the run defense. I do like what I've seen out of them. Like I said, Francis Mongai. Returning is a big add for this team. 70 total tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups. Good numbers. KJ Clyde, 42 total tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks for him. Wesley Bizante is another solid piece for this team. He's a really good physical player that's played different roles for this team, off the edge. I like what I've seen of him. 38 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. There are some nice production there on the front part of this defense. Ruben Bain, true freshman who looked fantastic, right? 37 total tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. Good production from this unit. I like what I've seen. 3.17 yards per attempt on the ground is really solid. 22 points per game given up. This is a big physical run defense. That's a great start for this defense.
Look at the secondary. Obviously, they're going to be without those safeties. They really weren't all that bad this year either. I think they're kind of on par of what we expected. 227 a game, 12 picks they're able to snag. They're probably giving up some big plays at times, though. But overall, I was pretty happy with what they were able to produce. Guys like Jaden Davis came over from OU and stepped up in a big way. Daryl Porter, whenever he was on the field, was good for them. Corey Couch, a very solid corner as well. The matchup here, it's not going to be one that's really going to be too big. I think maybe other than play action, that's something you got to be wary of if Rutgers is getting the ground game going. But these receivers, I don't think they're really going to test them all that much. I think if Miami wants to press and be physical here, they'd certainly have an edge.
I think they have an opportunity to do so. This is a passing defense that's been solid this year. I think they have a little underrated, right? They have 12 interceptions to 16 passing touchdowns given up. Not a bad number at all. Like I said, to Corey Couch, 35 total tackles, 3 picks, 3 pass breakups, good numbers. Daryl Porter Jr., 21 total tackles, 3 pass breakups in 8 games. He's a little banged up this year. Jaden Davis, 36 total tackles and 4 pass breakups for him. Decent production there. I like what I've seen out of this defense overall. I thought the offense would be the leaps and bounds better unit for Miami. The defense ended up being the better unit, certainly on the field. They looked good all season. I'm really impressed with this Hurricanes defense.
Looking at the final thoughts and the prediction for Rutgers, they need to find a passing game in key moments, and they need to stop the run of Miami. QB situation is gloomy for the Hurricanes. They need to be better in the trenches and in the turnover margin to win this game. I think Rutgers is going to be more motivated for this one. This is a Miami team that cost me $1,100 because they don't know how to take knees. I don't expect them to be any more up for this one if they can barely beat some of these other opponents in conference. Rutgers, they're going to be motivated here. It's going to be hard against this defense. It's still going to play very good. I certainly think they will find some nice conversions in the passing game. I think the defense will have more energy in this one. It's going to set up some short fields against a young quarterback. 24-20 for me. I think Rutgers could certainly win by more points. But with this offense, it's really hard to pick them to win by a wide margin. So I'll stick with 4 points. You're going to go with a little bit more, Nick, of a touchdown and an extra point.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 7-point victory at this point. I think this is a team, this is a classic tale of a team motivated and a team not motivated playing in a bowl game. Miami, they don't really want to be here traveling to the Bronx. Going to be cold weather, not really used to this team. Meanwhile, Rutgers, this is their first bowl game that they've legitimately qualified for. They played in the Gator Bowl due to COVID opt-outs, but this is the first bowl game they've legitimately qualified for in quite some time. So I think their fans are going to be motivated. It's not that far of a drive for their fan base to the Bronx. It's a great atmosphere, right? This is their first legit bowl game since 2014. So this is a big opportunity for this team. Greg Schiano, a win here would continue to put a stamp on what was a really great season as they get progress. Miami's quarterback situation being as dodgy as is concerns me as well. I like Rutgers a lot in this one. This is a very exciting opportunity for the program. You and I are both very happy with the direction this program's going. We think this team can be involved in potentially being a stronger team in the Big Ten over the next couple of seasons. I'm really happy, and this is the first step in the right direction for this program.
Yeah, I just think Cristobal's out there working in the portal, and Schiano's working on this game plan. No shots being taken either way. I think both coaches certainly have their priorities in order, though. I just think Schiano, this one means a little bit more to him in this program. For Miami, they're expected to have plenty of success in the portal, while Rutgers is probably going to get some leftovers. So I think that's where everyone's mind is at the moment. That's me for today's episode, Nick. Appreciate you joining me breaking down the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah, super excited for this one in my own backyard. A great matchup between two teams from the Big Ten and the ACC.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.
Bowl.